want to go back to this issue of whether it is or is not a race problem. You say it's a policing thing, not a race thing, but the counter to that would be this wouldn't have happened if the guy had been white. Do you agree with that, Peter?
I
I
don't.
don't. Simply
There's
because
no way to know. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, in this case, who knows? I don't know what those cops would have done, but I mean, yeah, there are tons of videos out there of cops shooting white people for no good reason and being brutal to white people. And people generally don't see them because they don't get the coverage in the national media without the race angle. But I, I mean, yeah, cops shoot white people too. Cops beat white people too. Um, is it disproportionately black, the victims of police brutality? Well, it depends on what the denominator is. I mean, the short answer is yes. But in the same disparities, I think that police interact with people generally. Again, this case again, it was just that's why also why I want to see what led up to this. But this guy was not presenting himself in some thug-like fashion. At one point, he's saying the cops are telling him to get on the ground, and he kind of looks back and goes, "I am on the ground." And of course, what he didn't know, like I knew what the cops meant, which is when the cop says get on the ground, they mean get on the ground, flat spread eagle. He didn't know that, and why should he?
You
All he
know,
knows is he's on the ground.
I'm going to venture this. I'm never going to write it. I'm just going to venture it here, wondering what set these guys off because there is just human brutality. I hate to say this, but the only thing I can imagine, and Peter, I'll bet you've thought of this too, and I don't know the answer. Was Tyre Nichols effeminate? Were they disgusted with him for some brutal reason like that, such that they start beating him down because they don't like guys like that? It's the only thing I can think of. And of course, it would not remotely justify it. But why him? Why then? Why that mean? And what it almost looks like is the sort of thing that gay men have often suffered at the hands of cops. Just wondering. I haven't heard his voice clearly. And
I haven't
frankly, it would
thought
come
of
out in
that.
voice.
Um, I don't know. I just, I don't think so because
We haven't read about it.
we
You
haven't
know?
read about it. I don't think he didn't strike me as that effeminate is one reason.
Right.
And I don't know, cops are used to dealing with all types and most of them don't get beat up. So,
Just trying to think of what set them off.
well,
And maybe
partly,
just nothing.
I'll say I don't know, again, when the video starts, he's pulled from the car too aggressively. What set them off was that they maced each other. Um,
Oh
that's
yeah,
important. It doesn't justify it, but if you haven't been maced and you're not going to get this from the video, you don't realize how painful it is. So once you get maced, it's a game changer.
they maced
Um,
each other by accident, trying to mace him.
yeah, further incompetence.
Correct.
But when you get mace in your eye, I mean, remember, this is a substance that is designed to be incapacitatingly painful. And it, won't kill you and you can fight through it, but they've all been maced. And so that sets them off, um, you know, emotionally, physically. And I mean, it's
Do they
just,
think he maced them?
no, they know they were maced by cops,
They
but it doesn't
right.
matter. Mace is so painful. So you're
Mhm.
dealing with these guys who are already have their adrenaline flowing and now they've been maced. It just, I mean, so that, again, I don't mean this in any way to defend it, but that set them off. And of course, it was their
Right.
fault. But they have been maced. The whole thing is, them dealing with that. And so then they take it out on Nichols. I've been hurt, even though they were hurt by another cop.
Peter, can I ask you this too? There's a shoe that hasn't dropped. I was surprised that this wasn't the immediate response. That the guys were fired only because they're black. That if white cops had done this, they wouldn't have been fired, and so this isn't a milestone. Why haven't we heard that? I'm really surprised that that hasn't been the first thing that people started writing about this from a certain spectrum. You know?
I have heard. It's funny when I saw their pictures. That was, joking to myself. My first thought was that, like, oh
Mhm.
look, they're all black, so they were fired. Um, I I think in this situation, had it been white cops with the same chief, she would have made the same decision. I don't know. Who can say? Um, I think that was her form of damage control. And partly, I think it's because the department, this has to go higher. This is the systemic problem is in the Memphis Police Department. They didn't have supervision for this. So I'm a little I'm happy they were fired, but I'm also a little suspicious of the motives. I think it is to place them as fall guys here and to not have to look deeper. I mean, at some point, this does go up to the chief. That's where the buck stops. And I don't think she's accepted that responsibility, that accountability yet. But would have they been fired if they're white? I don't know. We're in a different time, I think, where people are we're firing these cops when possible. Uh, is being more of the chosen path. But I don't think in New York City you could fire them that quickly. I mean, so there are union rules and so on, and I don't know the contract in Memphis, but she was able to apparently. Of course, you're
Mhm.
always able to. The question is if it's unjustified, then they get reinstated later with back pay. But
Right.
that you can at least kick that can down the road.
What happens
Let
to
me
cops
ask
like
you.
that?
Sorry, John, I didn't mean to interrupt. What were you saying?
I was just going to say, what do they go do? What happens to those guys? Do they
Oh,
ever
after
get
they're
another job
fired.
doing anything else? Yeah.
Well, they're fired and charged criminally, so that they got to deal with the criminal chart. The case that's coming up. So that's what's on their mind right now. But presuming that the firing is upheld, and I'm pretty sure in this case it will be. I mean, they're screwed. They're out of work. They're not going to get another job easily. And so, I mean, their lives are ruined. Oh well.